Hi, everyone. I'm Oliver Basner, your host for Business in Calgary podcast, powered by Sonic Coaching, and delighted today to be sitting with Diamond Fernandes, who's the CEO of the HeartFit Clinic, based out of Calgary. I know you've got multiple locations. The other thing you want to know about Diamond is he's on the cover, the August 2025 cover of Business in Calgary magazine. And the HeartFit Clinic now has 5 locations across Canada. However, it all started here in Calgary with the first one. So welcome, Diamond.
Thank you very much.
So let's jump right in. I was, as I was thinking about when you were coming in today, one of the thoughts I had was, how did it start? Like, I mean, you probably didn't grow up as a kid going, I'm going to start a heart clinic, right? Or a
No,
heart
it
fit
didn't
clinic.
happen that way. So I started working with a group of cardiologists here in Calgary at the Lindsay Park Sports Center back then. It was
Right.
called then. So it was with total cardiology. And I was working with a bunch of cardiologists at the time. And so I'd passed some certifications. And so you end up going into the field of cardiac rehab.
Right.
And so seeing people after a heart event or, a heart attack or something to that event. And so I watched these people come in, and I was there from 1999 to 2005. So it was an amazing experience. Like, I was in a small office, cardiologists would come in, I would just be a sponge, and I wanted to learn more and more. And what got me into doing that is that my father, he ended up having another heart event. And so he had his first heart attack at, gosh, he was 38 years old. I don't
So he was a
remember
young
that.
man at the time.
Yeah, 42 years old I do remember, because he ended up having bypass surgery, and I was only grade 9 I was at the time. And I was driving back, I was at a school north of Edmonton, and my mom came to pick me up in Edmonton by herself in a snowstorm. And or it was snowing on the way back home, and I'm like, Mom, like, good thing you got me coming back. But
Yeah.
and it was a crazy snowstorm. Now, she's a pharmaceutical sales rep, and she was all over the,
Right.
so she was used to driving that way. But anyway, we made it back home. But instead of coming home, we actually stopped in the hospital, and I found out that my dad just had a bypass surgery. And so,
Right.
anyway, that was when I was in grade 9. But anyway, bypass surgeries, heart stents, they're not cures. And people think, oh, I'm all fixed up. And so, fast forward a number of years later, and my dad had ended up having another heart event. And I'm like, I remember the cardiologist telling me, look, we're going to send him to cardiac rehab. And I said, okay, well, I want to learn a lot more about this. And that was in, I want to say, 98, somewhere in that range. And so I ended up getting a job with total cardiology in 99. So I saw how they were treating, it was public healthcare, right? And it was,
Right.
I saw how people were being treated, and I'm like, look, there's got to be a better way. We got to get into the prevention side of things. I'm seeing these people come back. Like, we got to do a better job. There's a lot more things that are happening here. And so I ended up, I thought of the idea of opening up my own center, because I proposed it to them in a way, and they're like, and it was kind of, you're kind of stuck in bureaucracy world
For sure you
in
are.
public healthcare. And I'm like, well, maybe I can do this on my own. And everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone thought I was crazy. And so I even thought, maybe I'm a little crazy. So one of the cardiologists ended up opening up a clinic in Dubai. So he asked me, why don't you run that one over there? I did it for a year. I didn't really enjoy living in Dubai at the time there. It was an amazing experience and an amazing city. Like, it was a beautiful
Yeah,
city.
absolutely beautiful
But
city.
working there was just, it was not the right atmosphere that I wanted to be in. And so I didn't like how people were treated. I didn't like there was a lot of things I didn't like.
Right.
And so I came back home. Another cardiologist asked me to manage their program in Kelowna. So I managed that program in Kelowna. And then I said, okay, look, at some point I got to start. I have this vision. I want to do it on my own. So let's go do it. And I jumped 2 feet in. And from the business perspective, you're like, I'm the perfect technician. I know exactly what to do, how to do, all that part of it, but horrible at business. Like, horrible at business. And so I ended up learning the business of healthcare, and that was in 2007. So I started the HeartFit Clinic in 2007 in a small little room. So for those of my patients that remember us in a small room, that's where I started. I started in a small room in Calgary, and it's very humble beginnings. It's not like I had some big investment dollars
Right.
to do that, but it was really humbling to see where I started from. And I had a bigger vision, and I reached it, but now I want to go even further. Like,
Right.
now we're sitting here in 2025. I'm on the cover of this magazine, and it's very flattering, but I'm not done. I got so much more. I want to 10x or 20x from here. Like, it's really a fun thing to think about business, because once I started to learn that I had to change to become a better person at business,
Right.
that's where I did better at business. And at the end of the day, it was a business. Like I was trying to treat it like, a little bit of different public healthcare, and people were not quite ready in 2007 for a private healthcare business to come in. Oh, you got to charge, and so I struggled. Like
Yeah.
2007,
18 years to be an overnight success,
yeah,
right?
so it's 18 years. So it was an overnight. I opened up my next clinic in 2018 just to show you
Okay.
that gap.
Yeah.
So it was. I remember. I'll never forget it, of course. And a good friend of mine till today is that. I obviously have helped lots of people, and I have a huge passion for helping people prevent and reverse heart disease. My knowledge in this field is just, I'm just a sponge still. Like 26 years later in being in this field, I'm still a sponge to learn more. What can you do? How can you do? Like there's better ways into treating heart disease. And so, I wrote my book in 2017, Beating Heart Disease.
Right.
And then I got my second book coming out. It's called Death of the Stress Test.
Awesome. How's your dad doing today?
He's doing well. Like obviously, he's a big inspiration for others when they see him in the clinic, and he's 70, 78, 79. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Great story.
Yeah.
So, well, I love the business part. We'll dig into that in a little bit here, because I mean that's why I do this podcast, right? Is to share kind of those nuggets, as that you've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. Let's call it what it was,
of course,
right?
yeah,
Over the years, and I'm a firm believer. If if you're not viable, if you're not profitable, then you can't serve your clients. You can't expand. You can't share the knowledge, right? So. I'm glad you figured out the business piece so that we could sit here together. So,
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that you've been quoted as saying is that you want clients to live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And obviously, your father is a prime example of that, having had multiple heart attacks.
Yeah.
So, how does the Heart Fit Clinic do that?
We,
how do you do that?
We bridge a gap, and that's one of the simplest ways I can see it. And everyone. We're away from the days when I grew up. Doctor said, that was golden, right?
Of course.
Because that was like, you walk into an office and you're trying to get an answer for something, and doctor said. Well, guess what happened in the 2000s is that the internet exploded, and now, you can now search what does the doctor said, right? And so
you can verify some of that.
You can verify some of that, and it was like. And I remember, like, I got so many close personal friends that are physicians, and they're like, I'm not going to see any patients if they Google any of their conditions before they come and see me.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's such a silly thing to say. Like, now we have it at our fingertips. So now I can search what, Diamond's saying, anybody's saying about health or heart health, and we're at this place where, it's like we're in a instant level of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And you got to use people that are like myself, that understand the landscape of what's happening, so that people can live happier, healthier, and longer. And doctors are not taught that side of things.
Right.
So let me explain. Because if you go to your family doctor, they love you, and even if they're private, they might pay special attention to you, but the point is that they're confined to a box, meaning that they have to look at, cholesterol does not cause heart disease. And yes, your blood pressure will be taken care of, or diabetes, but when you come to the Heart Fit Clinic, we want to find out why do you have these conditions? And more importantly, where your risk is. So now that private physician or your physician will be like, let me send you to the gold standard cardiologist, and he'll tell you where the risk is. Well, I've been going to cardiology conferences since 25 years now, and it's they don't learn prevention, right? It's like, what do you mean they don't learn prevention?
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah.
What do you mean how is that impossible?
They go to school. If you look at how they go to school, you want a cardiologist when you have advanced problems or advanced concerns. Right. And they're trained to, hey, if you have a plumbing problem, I've got plumbing tools.
Yeah.
If you have an electrical problem, well, I've got electrical tools. And if you have a structural problem, then I'll have structural tools. But if you're trying to prevent that, that's not their game. And if you're, more importantly, trying to secondarily prevent it, meaning you've had the concern, you've had the heart attack, or, some kind of structural repair or electrical AFib that's been taken out, they don't do a good job at trying to prevent it. And the medications are their way of prevention. And so it's not that they don't love you, it's just that they don't get into the root as to why you ended up having that problem. And so what I learned over the years, and it was some really great mentors of mine, is that the artery has been treated to be like a pipe. It's not a pipe, it's a muscle. And you can feel it expand and contract in different spots in the body. And all of these arteries expand and contract. And when they get diseased, it's not a cholesterol accumulation, which is where we've been taught.
Yes.
Right? It came out, it started with
watch your cholesterol,
yeah,
right?
Watch your cholesterol. And that happened in the 70s. They opened up a cadaver diseased artery and they found fat and cholesterol. And that's where you heard, a few years later, stay away from cholesterol and fat. It's clogging our arteries. So that's where the bacon and the eggs and
butter, all that
butter,
stuff.
margarine, all that, it's like, have margarine, it's safer for you. Well, no, that's processed stuff. And so
Right.
it's like we've been fed a wrong narrative, and I feel it's a little bit geared from a pharmaceutical perspective. Now, I'm not trying to say pharmaceuticals are bad.
Right.
I'm just trying to say it was pushed from that narrative, and it was like, okay, well, I have the solution, and we're seeing more heart attacks now than ever. And so when you talk about live happier, healthier, longer, it's about understanding the root causes to where heart disease is and what you have to do to prevent it. It's about understanding the biology of the artery wall.
Interesting. Well, and as you know, I had a little bit of a scare about a year ago because I came to see you at the clinic here in Calgary, and after 14 hours sitting in emergency with chest pains, I was like, okay, well, they gave me a clean bill of health, but what does that really mean? And so I thought, well, you know what, HeartFit Clinic, I'm going to come see you, and went through the tests, and had that peace of mind because your tests seemed, there was just more going on, more robust, more in depth on what you were checking for, right?
Yeah.
Versus, had some blood taken, and they checked for some enzymes in the blood and said, okay, well, you haven't had a heart event, and away I went. But I had chest pain. What caused that, right? And so coming to you gave me some answers. And I remember when you explained to me that the arteries are not a pipe. It was like, what? That's what we've been taught, right? Cholesterol, blocks the arteries, they're pipes.
Clogs up.
Yeah.
Last piece of cholesterol clogs. It doesn't happen that way at all.
No.
So this is where, when you talk about how we help people live happier, healthier, longer, it's about understanding the biology of the artery wall.
Yeah.
Well beyond the cholesterol.
Absolutely.
And our narrative is still stuck a few decades away. Like we're still living 4 decades in the past with cholesterol causes heart disease. And then more importantly, we're still living 5 decades in the past with cardiology. We're still doing stress tests. And that's why my next book is called Death of the Stress Test, because it's the wrong tool to use to prevent a heart attack or see where your risk is of a heart attack.
So why do you say that? Because that's exactly where they set me after the hospital,
Yeah.
right? Was okay, go set, they set me up for a stress test, right? And
it's
then
a
said
waste of
everything's
our
fine.
healthcare system dollars. So if we want to talk business from that perspective, what a waste of money that is. And I can show study after study, and some great cardiologists put some studies together, and it's like, what a waste of time that is. But we're still stuck 4 or 5 decades in the past.
Interesting. So how do medical doctors, how does the medical system view what you do? Do they accept it? Do they reject it? Do you get a lot of noise from them?
I think there are a lot of doctors that are still stuck decades in the past and are still trying to hold on to a narrative that is not working today.
Right.
And those doctors that are, it might be slower to adopt.
Right.
But now, what we're doing is getting to become a standard of care in the US, in Singapore. When you pay big dollars to go down to Tony Robbins clinics and, like big high-end clinics, you don't need to do that. We're right here in Calgary.
Yeah.
Well, and
you're paying in Canadian dollars.
Yeah, you're paying in Canadian dollars. So, but I've learned from all these people as to what is the best thing to have longevity for your heart health. To look at the artery and understand that there's a functional medicine approach to treating and preventing and reversing cardiovascular disease.
Right.
And a lot of doctors are slow to adopt that because they don't teach that in med school. They don't teach that in cardiology school. So it's there are doctors like, so we've got so many great interviews. We've got so many great interviews with other physicians that understand the gaps in the healthcare system. They understand what's going on. So for me, it's not about focusing on the people that are the naysayers. Trust me, I've been in this business for a long time, and there are a lot of people that tried to put me down.
Right.
And when you talk about from the business perspective, I think what makes me where I am today is resilience. That if you ask one word, that would be it. And I'm that type of person. I'm a very resilient person. I will find answers for you. I will look well beyond what's going on. And I won't, there are so many physicians that I can think of in the past, even people that I used to work with that are like, you're wrong. And I'm like, that's okay. You do you, I do me.
Right.
And I've got literature to back me up. It's not like I'm in a hocus pocus world. There's a lot of evidence to show what I'm talking about and how we prevent or reverse heart disease. It's just not available to us in the healthcare system.
Right. I remember last year you spent quite a bit of time in your office going through some of that research with me.
Yeah.
Right. I was fascinated, with all the things that I learned that should be common knowledge in my mind, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. So, what trends are you seeing right now in that whole cardiovascular health area? I mean, you're on the cutting edge of everything that you do. So what are you seeing for trends? Or, are you even ages? Are you seeing younger people, older? Like what's the trends?
I think we're seeing a lot more younger people with cardiovascular disease. Obviously, older people are getting it too, but gosh, I'm getting a lot more 30-year-olds with heart disease.
That's scary.
It is. It's hard to say exactly what it is. I mean, since COVID, I think there's been I'm seeing a lot more younger people with issues. And so it's, imagine putting the world in a pandemic and asking you not to go to work and shut the world down. I think that caused a lot of stress and, put people into a position where, unfortunately, heart disease is poking its head out a little bit earlier for some people. And so when I talk about trends, this is where the HeartFit Clinic is really focusing on using AI in the right spots. We've got really great AI testing. We've got blood work AI testing. We've got AI heart scans that we can see the heart in a way that you're not able to get at your doctor.
Right.
And it's safe, it's painless, there's no radiation. So where I'm seeing the trends now is to how can we use AI to make healthcare easier? And that's where I want to take the next level of our business. I want to take it to a point where I want to grow multiple clinics. I want to be able to create an ease for other clinics to make it that way for people. Because now I'm looking now beyond my clinics, and I've got bigger visions to be able to help other clinics do the same thing, because it's the new way of healthcare. Right? People are looking for better answers. We're in a world where, okay, I can Google something and what Diamond's talking about, I can Google right away. But what's now we're in the world is, hey, I've got a chat GPT that I can ask, and now it's not quite there, but it will be. And it'll be like, well, who is Diamond Fernandes? Well, what does he say? Is he right? Is he wrong? Tell me the rights and wrongs of what he's doing. And you'll find out right away.
Yeah.
Like there's no guesswork anymore. There's no long research in the library. I remember studying and I had like all these textbooks trying to learn ECGs up. I remember I should have taken a picture of it, but it was, film days though. But it's not digital. But the point is, you have all these textbooks out, and I was at the medical library trying to learn cardiac health, and it was like, I remember 20 books open on ECGs and trying to learn that. And now, anyway, it's instant for us.
Wow.
Right? So
now, can you reverse heart disease? Can you reverse it?
Absolutely.
If you've got it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But you have to think of it not like a pipe, because people think of reversing heart disease as scraping out a pipe and unclogging it.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So if you understand the biology of the artery wall, that's where it becomes very important, because how we reverse heart disease is that if you put your thumb and finger together and make that kind of A-OK sign, that's what the inside of the artery looks like. It's all skin. So how we reverse heart disease is healing that skin. How we reverse heart disease is shrinking the pimple inside that skin by changing the biology of it. And how we reverse heart disease is strengthening the skin over any plaques or pimples so it doesn't pop.
Right.
The idea is you don't want a plaque to rupture. And think of it like So I put my thumb and finger together, that's all skin,
Right.
right? Think of it like a pimple on our face. That's how it is. And if a pimple pops, that's a heart attack. We want to always try and prevent that pimple from popping.
Interesting.
And how we reverse heart disease is a lot different than just going and scraping stuff out. And people like want to know what percent blockage are my arteries. And I'm like, no, that's not what you want to know. And it's a hard concept to change because
It is,
cardiology,
because that's all you hear.
yeah, it's like, well, I need to get an angiogram done to see where the plumbing problem is. And if it's 50%, then I know I have 50% left. No, it doesn't work that way. That plaque, that pimple can pop and rupture, and it doesn't matter. So this is why we're doing the wrong testing, and that's why the purpose of my next book is called Death of the Stress Test. I navigate the whole healthcare system, whether you come to us or not, so you understand all the gaps and the benefits and the risks of
Right.
all the testing that's available out there to us.
So interesting. When's the book coming out? I can't wait.
Yeah, we're having it pretty soon here. So,
Awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
It just went to the editor for my last edits, and so once that's done, then it's really quick sailing. So it just gets printed and binded, and I should have
Awesome.
Yeah, within weeks.
Oh, I want my autographed copy, so
Absolutely.
I'll come buy that from you as soon as it's available.
Yeah.
So
We'll
you
have
know-
a big event when we'll
Nice.
have some events here in the fall talking about that for sure.
Nice.
So.
So let's talk about the business a little bit, because you said you weren't a great business person in the beginning. You had to learn how to be the business person, and we've got listeners who are probably right now listening, going, okay, I've got this idea, I've got this business. Maybe it's not as profitable as I want, or maybe it's not profitable at all, right? And so, what do you wish someone would have told you at the start of the journey? What would be helpful for that person thinking about business, thinking about starting something, or just getting started?
I think it's there are so many things I wish people would have told me, but I think what I've learned to enjoy is the process.
Right.
And so I don't know if there's one thing that would have changed it. There's still a process that you need to go through to understand that. Because when you go and you get your MBA, right, and you find out, okay, well, I got my MBA and
I'm good now.
I'm good now.
Yeah.
And that's not true either, because there are certain things that our brain is bringing in to see what's happening.
Right.
I think there are so many things that are important for business, and I categorize it in a few different pillars. And I think cash becomes a very important one, right? Because
Right.
I'm not an accountant, I'm not a bookkeeper. Like in fact, I detest that side of things, but I love numbers.
Right.
Like I find it tedious. Like I'm really good at it, but it's kind of when you do a decision matrix on things. I'm really good at it, but I really hate it.
That's like
So,
me. I mean,
yeah.
with my clients, for instance, right, is I love looking at their financial statements, but don't ask me to put the little numbers into the
Yeah.
boxes on the computer.
Yeah,
right?
I hate that stuff. But
Yeah.
the point is that then you ignore it. But cash becomes very important. So it's important to know your numbers, know your metrics, know, hey, if I'm going to invest in something, what's my expected return? Am I meeting those targets? Am I meeting those key performance indicators that are cash related? I think that becomes very important. When you look at other things that I wish, like that's a big pillar. And I can go off on probably hours just talking about, how do we manage cash
Right.
and where projections are and all that part of it. I think that would be very valuable for me. I think that would have been nice for someone to say, look, know your numbers, know what's happening, know what's
Right.
going on. And I didn't at the beginning. I had this wishful pie thinking, and it's like, no, then make these indicators, like understand what these metrics are to reach your goal. I think that, gosh, I can go off on that pillar, but that is important. I think, when you talk about from the marketing arm, right, there's so many things that can come from that aspect of it as well. I mean, I again have great mentors in that pillar where they've showed me how to and what to, and to be able to be a little bit more. I think again, you just have to go through the process of it, right? It's like I got on the cover of a magazine 18 years later after being in business. Like it's not, and it's not to say that's the only thing and that's the pinnacle. That's not the point. The point is that there are just steps along the way
Right.
to be able to understand what you have and what you can do. I wasted a lot of my time in the beginning trying to convince doctors to refer to me, and I think that's where I was like, I went door to door to every doctor, and every doctor's like, well, is it covered? Is it, and I'm like, no, it's not covered, but this is an investment to understand people's health.
In your health, yeah.
And doctors would close their doors. I remember doctors were yelling at me, and I'm like, and I had to hold my cool because I didn't want to yell back. I'm a business owner, right? I gotta be able to be, I gotta show up well, and so I just took it on the chin, and I just put that in the, I call it, put it in my fuel tank,
Yeah.
and that was just gas in my fuel tank to just go a little bit harder and keep me more resilient to find out what is the better way. And it wasn't until I was on a chairlift with a bunch of doctors, and they're like, Diamond, you look, you're trying to go to these doctors, and you say, forget them. Like, we're too busy. We don't care about you. And these are close friends of mine. They're like, we don't care about you. It's like we do, but it's like we're so busy. We don't.
No time.
We don't have time for telling the patient to go here. We just want them to take their meds, and we'll see them when the next time we see them, right? And that's not healthcare. That's keeping someone stuck in a diseased care focus. And we were talking, and he goes, Diamond, just go right to the patient. Go right to the person. Go right to the person that you're looking for. And so this is where,
that's great advice.
and so that was really, really great advice that I got. I wished I got that before. I wasted so much time. I think I saw every physician in the city. And I was adamant to make this work. And not to say I didn't get any success, but it was like it was not worth my time.
Yeah, it was a tiny percentage, right?
And so I went right to the patient, and that's where I started talking to that avatar that I'm looking at helping out. Like, that's where I realized, okay, well, stop trying to convince doctors to refer, because they're not going to, right? And not to say that they aren't now, they are, but it's a delayed response. It's like going right to the customer and going right to the avatar and finding out where they are, what they do. That's where it was
figure
really
out
helpful.
your target, your true audience, right?
And then I think for me is all about execution. Like, hey, at some point you got to move, right? You got to do, because actually I'll come before that is having a strategy becomes very important, and that strategy is ever changing, right? I always work on a one page, like 1 year, 5 year outlook, but I do it every 6 months,
right?
Because if I put it out there, but then I'm like, let's review this again in 6 months. So strategy becomes a very important thing as to how I'm going to look at those. People is another pillar. Like, gosh, I love all my staff. Like, we have such a great clinic, and all the staff just love and have a good passion for doing what we do, and they follow our core values. Like, we're trying to hit 1 million hearts in the next 10 years, and it's like, well, you got to have a good team behind you.
Absolutely.
And so, at the
and
beginning,
a team that cares.
Yeah, a team that cares. And so, having that passion becomes very important. I love all of our team members. We do really, like, we enjoy hanging out together outside of work. Like, that's the type of people you want to have, right? And so, so people come into there, and strategy becomes into there, and then execution comes into there. It's like, okay, at some point you got to move,
right?
And I've made thousands of mistakes, but you got to move, right? You gotta write the book. You got to write the
adjust
first page
from those mistakes, right?
And so, there's so many things. I really could talk hours on that, but awesome. I put them into those pillars, and there's things that you can.
But you know what I've heard you say a few times since we've been chatting? Resilience, right? So, you could have let all those doctors who yelled at you, all those doctors who probably slammed the door on you, even those doctors where you sat in their waiting room and they made you wait for an hour or hours, right? You could have given up, right? But you took that and used it as fuel to be resilient and to keep moving.
Yeah,
right?
and
that's what I'm hearing.
I think and that's, I do that for anything, right? You just, if someone does anything bad to you, or you get cut off in traffic,
it's not about you.
It's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah.
So just put that, whatever that at some point you just got to let things go. But if someone says something and you get really, irritated about it or angry about it, or you can go to, like, when someone gives you any pressure of any sort, you have a choice of going two directions. You fold, or you put that in your tank and you use that for fuel later.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be activated now, but that fuel can be used for good. It doesn't have to be always used for me going, I don't know, I'm not a big guy, but me going out of my car and chasing a big guy and trying to beat the crap out of him, it doesn't make sense. Like, to me, it's about using the fuel for good. Like, hey, what more can I do with this? And I think that's, resilience becomes a very important thing. And again, some great mentors of mine, and they're really to the spiritual world, and I think I've learned a lot from them, and it's and these are all people that I've met through my clinic over the years, and it's just, I'm not the best person, but I know I'm going to be better tomorrow.
Right.
And
Well,
that's the key.
and you reminded me, I mean, the late Dr. Wayne Dyer,
Yeah.
you know, I remember watching him when he was still alive. I was at one of his events, and he said, you know, what happens when you squeeze an orange? Well, you get orange juice. And
Yeah.
he said, what happens when you get squeezed, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about. You can
Yeah.
come out angry, you can come out fighting, you can come out, you know, go try and beat that guy up who
I could
cut
be,
you off,
I
or
could have
you
been
could let
angry
it.
and started yelling at
Totally.
people and doctors and say, hey, you know what? I'm right. Well, no, just put that. You're going to get all these no's. And at the end of the day, it's just, you just put that in the fuel tank for later, right? You just put that into the fuel tank for good.
Yeah,
right? To make it
absolutely.
like, hey, what more can I do? Like, you know, I had the opportunity to meet Wayne Dyer. I had the opportunity to meet some really very, very high and spiritual people. And it was just like, you learn so much from these people. And it's like, I think that makes you a better person.
Right.
And I use the same strategy. Like, I've been 26 years in the field of cardiac health. That's a long time. And I still want to learn more. Right? And it's like, because if I think I know it all, where I know a lot of, you know, people out there that are in the healthcare space that claim to know it all. And at some point that puts a ceiling on you.
It does.
It puts a ceiling on you. And so I think when you end up going through that, I've realized that this is a better way to think, is that, hey, I don't know it all. I know a lot, but I don't know it all. And so I want to keep on learning more. And there's so much more that when you come to healthcare, I go to 4 different conferences a year to learn more.
Right.
Because it's changing, and sometimes it's repetitive, but I get to learn more.
And you hear it differently, and you might remember something you forgot from the last conference.
Read a book once, see what you take away from it.
Right.
Read it like 5 times, see what you take away with it.
Right. Excellent. So, you know, our listeners who are out there right now, I mean, you've given some great information, especially around cardiovascular health, heart health. So really appreciate that. Now, if somebody's sitting out there going, I want to know more, or, wow, I didn't know it wasn't a pipe, right?
Yeah.
Like, what else don't I know? Like, what do they do? How do they get a hold of you? How do they get more information? What's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, you can go onto our website, heartfit.ca, and there are lots of great information. I've got a lot of social out there, like with YouTube.
Right.
Just Google our clinic, Heart Fit Clinic, and you'll see lots of videos on what we talk about. And I mean, I still have to organize all of them because we get a lot of responses to what we can do and what we should do. You know,
And read your future book.
Yeah, read the future book. But anybody that comes into our clinic, we offer them a free, you know, consultation. So it's an opportunity to understand everybody's individual.
Right.
Right. Why you come in is different by the next person comes in. You know, we see people that are just trying to prevent a heart attack. We see like a busy CEO or professional is just like, hey, look, I got a busy business to run. I want to make sure I'm good, or like at the end of the day, you only have one heart, and you want to take care of it. And so, and heart disease happens to be one of the leading, jumps back and forth between cancer, but it's the number one preventable disease as well. You don't have to go down that path. And so we see people trying to prevent it. We see people who may have elevated risk factors. So they have, you know, high blood pressure or diabetes or cholesterol. They're taking a pill for something and they think they're okay. And they might still not be okay. Like it's getting to, okay, well, getting away from the mindset that I think that these pills are going to save my life, right? Because when you look at the data behind it, you can still take something and still end up with the problem that you're trying to prevent. So this is where we go into that. And then number of types of heart diseases, whether it be atrial fibrillation or heart disease like coronary artery disease, so heart attack, stroke, stents, bypass, and then structural problems. They may have had a valve repair or heart failure or something. So now we get a little bit more detailed with that person. And so each of those pillars of that we see, we take them through and individualize what they should understand about their health, so that they don't know that, hey, we don't know what we don't know, right? And it's just a free consultation. We share what we can do to help you out with different things. We've got very low expensive things costs because we go into corporations and we can assess the whole organization, but we don't want to do everything with everybody. So maybe, different parts of the organization get earlier assessment, and maybe the executive teams gets a little bit more advanced assessments to understand what's going on, because what is the cost of a heart attack to an organization?
And a human.
You know,
Yeah,
it's devastating,
love that.
right? And it's, or a stroke. And if you can prevent those things, why not? And you don't do it for yourself. You do it for the people that depend on you at home, at work. You know, you got loved ones at home, you got loved ones at work, you know, that people,
Even your teams
your
that have
team
families
that
and that you're
families,
looking
like,
after.
you know, the cost of you not being around is expensive,
Right.
right? Even if it's in a disability state, right, where you survive it. So trying to prevent one heart attack would save an organization like crazy amounts of money. And so
Right.
we can go into an organization and be able to understand what we can do to help people with their health. We've got simple tools to very advanced stuff to be able to help people out.
Well, thank you for for all that information,
Yeah.
and and if you're listening, I mean, reach out, right? I mean, a free assessment. There's no risk, and I know there's no pressure because I've been there,
Yeah.
right? So, and of course, like you said, there's lots of good information on your website, some great information on social media as well, because you're posting, and
Yeah.
you're and I know you're doing conferences and speaking all the time. So thank you for joining
My
me
pleasure.
today.
Yeah.
And you've been listening to the Business in Calgary podcast, powered by Sonic Coaching. I'm your host, Oliver Basner. I've been chatting with Diamond Fernandes, who's the founder, the CEO of the HeartFit Clinic, and I would say, just like you said, read that book more than once. This one's worth listening to more than once, folks. So, if you heard something of value, maybe you want to listen to this podcast again. So, and watch for our next podcast coming out in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.